The Galactic Council's annual Harvest Feast was the most prestigious event in the known universe. Species from 1,000 worlds gathered in the crystalline halls of Station Zenith, their bioluminescent bodies and exotic forms creating a tapestry of cosmic diversity. The feast celebrated the end of another successful cycle of peace and cooperation among the stars. Mia stood at the entrance, her human frame dwarfed by the towering Vraxian guards, whose chitinous armor gleamed under the artificial lights. She held her invitation chip in trembling fingers, the holographic seal of the council glowing softly. "Entry denied," the guard rumbled, his mandibles clicking with finality. "But I have an invitation," Mia protested, holding up the chip. "I'm the human representative from the Terran Agricultural Exchange. We provided the grain shipments that fed the outer colonies during the Blight." The second guard leaned down, his 6 eyes examining her with undisguised disdain. "The council has reconsidered. Humans are unsuitable for such refined company. Your presence would disturb the other guests." Mia's jaw tightened. She had heard the whispers, seen the sidelong glances. Humans were still the newcomers, the primitives who had only joined the galactic community 3 generations ago. They were tolerated, not welcomed. Useful, not respected. "I understand," she said quietly, stepping back from the entrance. The sounds of music and laughter echoed from within, a celebration she would never be part of. She found a bench in the observation corridor, a transparent tunnel that overlooked the swirling nebula beyond the station. Mia sat down, her appetite gone, her heart heavy with a familiar loneliness that every human who ventured to the stars eventually felt. That's when she heard them, the soft padding of many small feet. Mia looked up to see a group of Felinar cubs, their fur striped in patterns of silver and gold, their large eyes reflecting the starlight. The Felinar were one of the most respected species in the council, feline-like beings whose culture valued honor and loyalty above all else. These cubs, no more than younglings by their standards, approached her with cautious curiosity. The largest cub, whose name badge read Kessa, stopped before Mia. "You are the human," she said in the universal tongue, her accent making the words sound like a purr. "I am," Mia replied, managing a smile. "My name is Mia." "Why are you not at the feast?" asked another cub, smaller with bright green eyes. Mia hesitated. "I wasn't allowed inside." The cubs exchanged glances, their tails swishing with agitation. Kessa's ears flattened against her head. "But you brought food to our colonies. My aunt lives on Felinar Prime. She said humans saved many lives when the crops failed." "We did what we could," Mia said softly. The cubs huddled together, whispering in their native language. Then, without warning, they turned and scampered back toward the feast hall. Mia watched them go, puzzled by the encounter. Minutes passed. Then the cubs returned. But they weren't alone. Behind them came Ken, another human, one of the few terraforming specialists working in the sector. He carried a bottle of something that sparkled like liquid starlight. "Heard you were having a rough night," he said, sitting beside her. "How did you—" "The cubs found me inside, told me everything." Ken smiled. They were quite insistent. Before Mia could respond, the cubs reappeared, this time struggling under the weight of ornate platters piled high with delicacies from across the galaxy. Crystallized fruit from the methane swamps of Titan 7th, roasted grain cakes that Mia herself had helped develop, delicate pastries that shimmered with edible stardust. "What are you doing?" Mia gasped as the cubs laid the platters at her feet. "Sharing the feast," Kessa declared proudly. "If they will not honor you inside, we will honor you here." More cubs appeared, then adolescent Felinar, their arms laden with cushions and more food. They created a circle around Mia and Ken, arranging an impromptu banquet in the observation corridor. "This will get you in trouble," Mia warned, even as her eyes grew moist. Kessa sat down beside her, her small paw resting on Mia's hand. "My mother teaches that honor is not where you sit but whom you sit with. The adults inside have forgotten this. We have not." Ken poured the sparkling liquid into makeshift cups. "To new friends," he said, raising his cup. "To new friends," the cubs echoed, their voices a chorus of different pitches and tones. As they ate and laughed, more beings began to gather. A young crystalline scholar who had worked with human researchers, a Vraxian engineer whose life had been saved by human medics during a station malfunction, an elderly Zephyrite who remembered when humans first reached for the stars with nothing but primitive chemical rockets and impossible dreams. They came not with platters but with stories. Stories of human kindness, human ingenuity, human stubbornness in the face of impossible odds. They spoke of a species that gave freely without expecting glory, that reached out to others even when rejected, that looked at the vast and terrifying universe and said, "We belong here too." Inside the great hall the feast continued, but its music seemed hollow compared to the laughter in the corridor. The council's elite dined on protocol and pride, while outside a true feast blossomed, one built on respect, gratitude, and the understanding that civilization was measured not by who you excluded, but by who you welcomed. Kessa eventually fell asleep against Mia's side, her purr a gentle vibration of contentment. Mia stroked the cub's soft fur, looking out at the nebula beyond the transparent walls. The universe was vast and often cold, but in moments like this, surrounded by beings who saw her worth, it felt like home. Ken leaned back satisfied. "You know, I think we got the better feast." Mia smiled, genuine and warm. "I think you're absolutely right." The cubs had dragged Platters outside not just to feed a hungry human, but to teach a lesson that the galaxy desperately needed to learn. That true civilization wasn't built in grand halls with exclusive invitations, but in small acts of kindness that rippled across the stars. And if humanity had taught the younger generations anything, it was that the greatest strength wasn't in standing above others, but in standing beside them. The feast in the corridor lasted long into the station's night cycle, and though Mia never entered the grand hall, she left Station Zenith with something far more valuable than any council recognition: the knowledge that humanity's greatest export wasn't technology or food, but the simple, revolutionary idea that everyone deserved a seat at the table, and in the hearts of cubs who would one day lead their people that idea had taken root. The end.